Hello, happy Sunday night. I decided this week to focus on auditions between the chapter in Director's Vision last week that I read and the chapter 3, Hey Kids, Let's Put on a Show, and the fact that I had a meeting for 2 hours today planning auditions for my next 2 upcoming musicals. Auditions are definitely on my mind. I'm going to focus more on Hey Kids, Let's Put on a Show just because I've already written about the other one, and I'm going to write about this one in a moment. But yeah, I thought the part about, I guess some of this isn't totally applicable to what I do because both the theater company that I own and run and my school shows, I'm very lucky that we have huge turnouts for both. So my school shows often have over 100 kids involved. I just had signups for my 2 summer productions that I'm doing at Newtown Stage Company, and we have 83 kids in one show. In our teen show that I'm directing, Mean Girls, I right now have about 40. I'm hoping to get about 50. But just because of the size of our theater and the number of seats we have, we always just have bigger turnouts. And there's also not as many opportunities in the area, so we get a lot of kids from surrounding towns. So because of the nature of how many kids I have both in my school and in my theater company, my auditions are definitely a little bit different than this. Like this, a lot of this I see is working with like smaller groups. I love the idea of starting off with improv games and icebreakers, but really those are like if everybody's there, and when you have 100 kids, you can't have them waiting for their audition. So I do auditions by appointment for my theater company, and then callbacks are with a group. And then for my school shows, because there's so many kids, we actually do virtual auditions for round 1, and then after that we do in-person, like additional callbacks as needed. So that's a little different. But if I did have a smaller group, if I had, let's say, under 30 kids or even under 50 kids, I love the idea of getting together and doing icebreakers and singing together and doing all of these things. But just with the nature of the group size I have, it's not possible. I thought it was interesting that they talked about doing dance auditions first. It's usually the last thing we do. Usually at school, it's one of the last pieces, just more because of scheduling. But then, I think partly also because I do musicals and I like them to be familiar with the music, which they more likely are if they've already sung some of the songs and done the musical auditions. But at my theater company, we do dance auditions last. Usually it's on the same day as callbacks. Everybody comes for that. And it is fun to have everyone together. But again, the group is so big, it's a little hard to kind of get to know them in that moment. I thought the part about raw versus polished auditions were interesting because you definitely have those kids that have a lot of experience in theater. They've done auditions, they know what to do, they've been trained. And then you have those kids that just come in and have this raw talent. And I love a mix of both. With the polished kids, you know what you're getting and they've been through the process, and that certainly makes it easier. But sometimes that raw talent is just so sweet and beautiful. And I find, it's a decision. And in my last show, I had some raw talent that I chose, and I realized it was a little harder to harness some of those people than others. But there were also, raw talent kids that just rose to it, and they understood what to do, and they followed and they learned the ins and the outs. And then there's those polished kids that they just know the protocol, they know what to do in the audition, they know how to follow through at the rehearsals. And I love having a mix of both because they can learn from each other. I was also thinking about the part about singing in front of the group and how that's a great icebreaker. Again, that's different for me because I can't have everybody there at once. So for their first audition, generally they're just singing in front of me and the audition panel, or it's a video that I watch. But again, I do think like seeing if they can come out of their shell and perform in front of the group is super important. And that's why I always do that for callbacks. Thinking about, they were talking about cold readings versus prepared readings. When I was growing up, with lack of the internet, they pretty much, auditions were always cold readings for me. That was stressful. I had dyslexia, so reading the lines was tricky. I always wished that I had time to prepare if I could, and when I could get my hands on a script ahead of time, I did. For that reason, I like to make, material available. There certainly are times in audition where they might come in with a certain role prepared, and I'm like, hey, I'd like to hear this one. Most times I do, if someone's good, but maybe I think they might be a better fit somewhere else, I will give them a cold read, but I do like them to come in with some prepared material for sure. And then callbacks, again, they were talking about callbacks, and one piece that really resonated with me that I definitely find as a director I have to do is having those callbacks for the more unpopular roles. I did Frozen last summer, and everybody auditioned for Anna and Elsa and Hans and Kristoff and Olaf, but there were a lot of other roles in the show. So I found the need to hey, do you mind reading for Wesselton? Or I'd like to hear you do this, or I need someone to do this. And it definitely helped to kind of hear people in those roles, because it is true in lots of shows there's certain roles that everybody wants, but you need to hear the other ones too. And, having that done in callbacks is super helpful. My lights are turning off on me. But I think that was just kind of revisiting auditions, especially because that's something I'm planning right now. Felt pretty apropos. And I hope you have a great week. Take care. Bye-bye.